Week 6 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few defense DST units I have as sleepers this week. The first one, the Dallas Cowboys. I know their defense, one of the worst units in the league is Dallas, but this week is a streaming option and a sleeper option at the Carolina Panthers that give up the 11th most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. They could be a good one-week use, and last week they actually played a decent ball game, I thought, at the New York Jets, even though we know the Jets are the worst team in the league. Week 4 versus Green Bay, got the doors blown off, even though it ended in a tie. 40 points allowed, a sack, fumble recovery, block kick. In Week 5 at the Jets, 22 points allowed, where 2 of those touchdowns were actually in garbage time, 5 sacks and a fumble recovery. So if this D-line could get pressure and get some sacks on Bryce Young in this game, which is definitely a possibility, I don't think this Panther offensive line is that great. I think maybe Dallas could go out there and have a decent ball game, but like I said, out there 90% of fantasy leagues, they're a one-week streaming option if you need help at the position. Next DST is the Tennessee Titans. So this Titan team as well, I'm just going off a decent matchup where they could be a sleeper option, where Geno Smith and this Vegas Raider offense has been a turnover machine this season, and they're out there in tons of leagues right now in 98%. So the last couple weeks for Tennessee, Week 4 Houston, 26 points allowed, 2 sacks, and then last week, Week 5 at Arizona, 21 points allowed, 3 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, and a touchdown in that game. So Week 6, that's a good matchup at Vegas on paper. 4th most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. Like I said, Geno's throwing tons of interceptions. Their points per game aren't all that great as well for this Vegas Raider team. And if you're in a pinch for a DST this week, Tennessee, like I said, out there 98% of fantasy leagues, and I think they'll create a couple turnovers and get a few sacks in this one. And the third and final DST I have as a sleeper is the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I know this week a tough matchup, no doubt about it, versus a good offense to the Seattle Seahawks. But this Jaguar team, they give up points, but they still create turnovers and still get to the quarterback. And we saw it especially last week. They gave up 8 points and still had a decent fantasy day was this Jacksonville Jaguar team, including a pick 6, obviously, on Mahomes in that one. So the last few weeks for them, Week 3 versus Houston, 10 points allowed, 2 sacks, 2 INTs, a fumble recovery. Week 4 in San Francisco, another example, 21 points allowed in that one, a sack, 2 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, a return touchdown. And then Week 5, like I said, versus the Chiefs, the 28 points allowed, but the pick 6 in that ball game. So they getting interceptions, they're creating scores as their special teams. And this week versus Seattle, I know they're playing good offensively, especially Sam Darnold and the running room of Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, and Smith-Njigba in the receiving room. But I think Jacksonville, they could get to Darnold a couple times. And like I said, they find ways weekly, it seems like, to score a touchdown defensively or returning a punt or a kick for a touchdown. They're out there in 81% of fantasy leagues. That's a few defense DST units I have as sleepers for Week 6 of the fantasy football season.